Hey, 111 folks, I wanted to do a couple of quick things while I could. What I wanted to do is talk a little bit about, well, actually what's posted in the unit itself. I've been talking about complex civilizations. I've been talking about some of the other stuff, and it's a little bit hard to keep up with. So what I wanted to do is go ahead and share our Moodle page and share this link right here. And what it is, it's the Mesopotamia over time maps. And I feel like it's pretty important. If you come here and look at it, and hopefully you can see everything that I do, what it does is it shows you Mesopotamia in general. And it's kind of important because it shows you in the very beginning, we start talking about Sumer. Um, being between the rivers, you see the two rivers there, the Tigris and the Euphrates. You see where the Akkad is going to be, but you also see scattered other cities along the way. And that's important because what's going to happen is we're going to start with a small version of Sumer. When you get down to Hindu, and Uruk and Nippur and Lagash and things along that line, and they're going to sprout out. And as they sprout out and they sprout up and they grow, we talk about transitioning, hitting a Neolithic age. We start this farming, and the farming begins the cities. The growing of the grain means we're going to have to develop irrigation. We're going to have to develop flood control because this area is a bit unpredictable. In many parts of the year, it's arid, so they're going to have to go ahead and irrigate. When it does rain, it rains to flood at this particular point, and so they're going to have to control that. We adapt, and on top of that, we're also going to look at the fact that there's so many cities, there's only so much arable land. And so they're going to be the walled cities. They're going to be the big megalithic kind of cities that we talk about with the walls, with the sisters in there. We know that they're originally going to be controlled by the cult, by the priests themselves, by the religion. In the very beginning, you have NCs. The NCs are going to be the head priests, and the NCs are going to be the ones with power that control what happens, such as what crops you grow, how much donations you need, and then eventually you're going to have certain NCs who rise to the top, and once they rise to the top and they acquire power, they acquire land, they become Lugals, and the Lugals are going to be the first kings. And so a little bit later on, we start talking about the rise of Sargon. He's one of those first Lugals that really comes up along the way. And so he's going to, a little bit farther up where you see Akkad is, establish the Acadian Empire. And the Acadian Empire is going to be pretty important because what it's going to do is cement the area around itself. So if you look at the map, you can see where we start. And if you look at the next transition, you see what happens when it starts to flourish. What will happen is Sargon is going to unite this whole empire itself. He's going to unite all the way up here and towards Anatolia, all the way up here. This is going to be Assyria right up in here. And this is going to be Akkad in the lower areas. Now, what you don't see is right up in here is going to be Babylon. It's not there yet. What's important is this. These folks here are the Elamites. That's where we're going to see the rise of some hostile forces, and the eventual rise is going to come between the Amorites and the Elamites when it comes to creating this new Babylon. Right up here in Assyria is going to be the rise of a secondary empire. What we know is this, that the use of irrigation is also not going to just feed the people, but it's going to be the downfall because they're growing wheat. Well, they're using water from right here, and it's still brackish, it's still salty, and so that saline content is going to build in the soil. And as it's doing that, it's going to affect the crops because it affects what they grow. People are eventually going to have an uprising. They're not going to be fed. It's going to affect trade, and it becomes problematic. But also at the same time, we have some other discoveries along the way. And one of those is going to be metallurgy. And I talked about metallurgy, the combination of copper and tin get together to form bronze, allows us to spring into the Bronze Age. So we make the transition from the Paleolithic, the Old Stone Age, to the Neolithic. And Neolithic is going to still be using largely those stone weapons, but stone tools and things along that line, but it's farming. This makes the next jump into the use of bronze, and bronze is going to be a lot more malleable, a lot more functional than just rock at that particular point. And with that, we're going to look at a change in tactics. So we're looking at the invention of the potter's wheel. We're also looking at the invention of the wheel and the axle at this particular point in time. So we're going to be looking at carts. We're also going to be looking at trade in other areas. So even though these folks are often at war and competition, they're also trading back and forth. We know that Akkad is going to be trading with Anatolia, which is modern Turkey. We know that they're going to be trading with Egypt. We know they're going to be trading with Israel. We know they're going to be trading even with the Assyrians up there. So there's a lot of folks. What will happen is this is going to fall. The Acadian Empire falls, and as it falls, it starts to split apart. So Assyria will split apart from here, and what we'll see is the rise of Babylon. And the rise of Babylon is important, but you can see here we're looking at distinctions. Assyria is going to break away from Akkad. Babylon is going to go ahead and take over the southern regions, but we're going to see the rise down here of Elam. And Elam is going to be important because it's going to be a major aggressor along this area. What we have is this. There's going to be a competition between Babylon and Assyria. They're not going to be the best friends. Assyria is going to waylay Babylon. Assyria is going to develop better weapons. It's going to develop better tactics. It's going to develop modern skirmisher armies. It's going to develop better chariots as this works. And so all that goes really well, but they're not the downfall of Babylon. The downfall of Babylon is actually going to come from up in here, and it's going to be the Hittites. And the Hittites are going to sweep down. They're going to disrupt Assyria. They're going to disrupt Babylon. They're going to disrupt part of the Elamites, and they're going to be responsible for sacking and eventually taking over Babylon, and they're going to set up their own empire within Babylon. So it's going to fall. But as it falls, it's going to transition. Okay. Here we look at, again, because the Elamites are coming in, because the Arameans are coming in, because the Assyrians are coming in, we're going to look at the downfall of Babylon again, but an uprising. And the uprising is going to be a group called the Chaldeans. And the Chaldeans are going to come largely from in here, and they're going to establish what we call Neo-Babylon. Neo-Babylon will be the rise of a new Babylonian empire. It's this Babylonian empire that we see interacting. So it's going to be a combination of Assyrian, Elam, and some outside forces. But this is when we start to see folks that appear in the Bible. We start to see Ashurbanipal. We start to see Nebuchadnezzar. We start to see that this Babylon is going to kidnap the Hebrews from their area. They're going to kidnap them from Israel and bring them back, because part of it is disrupting the ethnic peoples in the area, disrupting the religion in the area. And this is important because these Hebrews are going to be in Babylon when it falls again. And it's going to fall to the Achaemenid dynasty. It's going to fall to what's going to be the Persians. And the bringing in and advent of the Persians is going to be important at this particular point, because what we're looking at is a big rise. The advent of the Persians is going to change this entire area. So if you look, you can see, boom. Well, look, here's the breaking apart here because of the Arameans, because of the other folks coming in. And then we see, boom, it's the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire is going to be important because when they come in, the Hebrews are still in Babylon. They're going to send them home, but before they send them home, they're going to be introduced to a new religion. And that new religion is kind of important because it's their first introduction to Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism is a monotheistic religion, but it's also dualistic in the idea that it is a struggle between light and dark. So it talks about the creator being creating everything. Okay, Ahura Mazda creates everything, including Ahriman. And Ahriman is his opposer, what we would think more as the devil. And it's about the struggle of light and dark. It's about the struggle of what's going on. So what I want to do is another one, go ahead and pick up and start talking about, well, what's happening in Egypt. So I'll go ahead and stop here and pick that up shortly.